Thanks for joining us in this second installment of the Black Belt Selling video blog. I want to talk to you this time about why business decision makers hate technology. Why do they hate technology? Well, three reasons: cost, risk, and bad selling. First of all, let's look at cost. We all know that technology is expensive, and I'm sure that you all get very good at talking about how, although it might be expensive, it'll save them money in the long run and things like that. But actually, business people are a lot more savvy than that. They know that whatever they pay at the front end for that IT solution, it's going to cost them a lot more in the long run. They know that there's a total cost of ownership argument in terms of hidden costs, like the amount of people they have to put in place to work with the supplier, the ongoing maintenance costs, the support costs, the costs for licenses, and all of those things that can completely snowball. And we all know that there's a lot of big projects hit the press recently in terms of costs spiraling out of control. And that kind of leads us on to the second reason why business people hate technology, because costs spiraling out of control in their own right are a huge risk to the company, the buying company, but they're also a huge risk to that decision maker on his or herself. In other words, specifically a risk to their job. Why is that so? Because they're making the decision. We've called them the decision maker, so they're making the decision on the purchase, and if it all goes wrong, or if it spirals out of control, then their fantastic reputation's at risk. So there's a risk for the company in terms of things spiraling out of control and getting out of control, and there's a risk to that person's job. The risks are wider than that, though. You know, there's a risk that if they make that decision, not just spiraling out of control in terms of costs, but it could be that the project or the solution that they buy becomes obsolete. In other words, your software, your infrastructure, even if it's software as a service, your company could go out of business, or the fact that they decide that it's not right for the way that their new business world, so it becomes either obsolete in the marketplace or it becomes obsolete to them in their working environment. It also can be a risk in terms of if it fails, either fails to deliver the benefits that they've been sold. In other words, even though the costs were significant, but they were looking for benefits that outweighed the costs, it could be a risk that those benefits are not realized. Even worse, that not only could the benefits not be realized, but actually it could fail to deliver benefits such as keeping them conforming to regulation or something like that. Now just think about that. If you're selling a solution and it's a really powerful argument that it's going to help them be compliant to a regulation, which is a really powerful selling proposition, if it doesn't deliver, that in terms of logic means that they are non-compliant. Now if they're non-compliant, that can break the bank for the company, it can ruin their reputation. It could be, if the business decision maker is actually a director of the company, they can end up going to jail. So just think about this. What you're selling in the mind of the buyer could end up either costing them much more than they expected. In fact, there's quite a high probability that that will happen. It could risk them their job. It could risk the company in terms of its ongoing existence, in terms of reputation and brand, or it could actually mean that the business director could ultimately go to jail. If you were that buyer, wouldn't you give a salesperson a hard time, and wouldn't you hate technology? In the next installment, we'll talk about how the benefits outweigh this and how you could get round this and how you can handle this and be a responsible salesperson and build the trust of the buyer and end up delivering a partnership that the buyer's just absolutely proud of and make them love technology solutions, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's software, software as a service, cloud-based solution, or networking technology solutions. You can make your buyer love those solutions. But I want to get to the third reason why business people often hate technology, and that's just bad selling. In fact, really it's a culmination or a summary of the last two things we talked about, because if you don't address the costs and realize that that buyer's thinking about the additional costs and the wider costs that the solution might entail, or not thinking about the risks, then you're not walking in their shoes, you're not forming a partnership, you won't develop the rapport, you won't develop the relationship, and then you won't get the commitment. Even worse, If you talk in terms of jargon and talk about the technology and you're really proud of the detail of the technology, well, if they're a busy decision maker, which if you're trying to sell a solution that's of significant value, they should be, then you're wasting their time by just talking about the technology bits and bytes, the software, the features and all of those things. You're just wasting their time. You're boring them, and at worst, you're showing them up because they don't know about this and you're making them look a fool. So bad salespeople actually waste their buyer's time. They bring up things in the conversation that add to the risk or the cost, but they also potentially make the buyer embarrassed in terms of what they don't know, or just think that they're completely wasting their time and talking to the wrong person. If there's not that connection, if you're not talking on a like-for-like basis and your solutions aren't aligning to their business needs and their priorities, then you're not selling and you're wasting your time as well as theirs. Remember, buyers naturally hate technology unless you make them love it. That's your job, and in the next installment of the video blog of Black Belt Selling, we'll talk about how you can make your buyers love technology. Thanks for joining us.